Gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to another episode of the Mirabella Mindset. Being in my mind, it's a crazy, crazy place. Let me put this phone on Do Not Disturb. So we are going to be chatting about what we talked about yesterday, the power of contract as it refers to 1099 independent contractors and the power of the PMA. So you always hear me speak about this PMA. In my salon's a private membership association. And we're not open to the public. And a lot of times when I have conversations with people, they ask if they can do the same thing that I can do. And they can't because you have a public hair salon. Being that we're private, there's a membership process and we function solely in the private domain. We are not open to the public. So certain agencies and certain things the government put in place to protect the public don't apply to us because our members join under their own free will. They voluntarily join our PMA. And so we don't have clients, we have members, and we don't have stylists or employees, we have members. So it's very important to understand the vernacular that you're using in your contracts and your operating agreement. All of that will be brought up in court if there's ever a situation with the Department of Labor or a situation with the IRS or a situation with the Board of Cosmetology. So you have to understand that words and how you use them, they hold weight in court. So how you construct your contract would weigh on what goes on in court. So if you're organize your contracts between you and your employees, which they're not independent contractors now, they're employees. So if you use the word employee or you treat them like an employee in that contract, then that could be pierced by the Department of Labor. You have to make sure that your contract is constructed with certain vernacular that completely makes them independent. That's first and foremost. So when I started my PMA, my private membership association, there's also private health associations, private education associations. So when I started my private membership association, it was during the shutdown. It was during the time when government said that liquor stores can be open and salons had to be closed. And that was not okay with me. And so I had to find what was in the Constitution that protected me as an American and my freedom and my rights. And I came across this thing called the right to private contract and the right to association. And these are all deeply rooted in the Constitution. So I'm just going to go off of a couple different things here. And I want to segue this into contract. So when you think about independent contractors, the word itself has contract in there. And this is why I'm going to focus a little bit on contract today. And again, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a regular guy who barely graduated high school, who did enough research to understand that there's a certain boundary that the government and the state can't cross when you are protected by contracts and the right to association. And so as long as you form this properly, your private membership association, you are free and clear to do whatever you want in your association, as long as you don't cause substantial harm or evil to your members. So, with that being said, protection of the right to contract. The U.S. Constitution also protects the right to contract between private citizens through the contracts clause found in Article 1, Section 10. This clause prohibits state from passing any law that impairs obligations of contracts. This protection ensures that private agreements, such as membership contracts within the PMA, are respected and upheld without undue interference from the state. So, excuse me, as it refers, right, a relevant court case, Allied Structural Steel & Co. versus Spanish 1978, have reinforced this principle by striking down state laws that retroactively impair contractual obligations. So if you have a contract and obligation, this has been happening throughout time. The state and the government will always try and overreach and try and go into your business and honestly try and dismantle it and break it up and try and get money from you through fines and through like licensing, which they don't need to do. So transparency is key here. You want to make sure that you're clear and transparent with your team, and you want to make sure that you know that they're not employees. You want to make sure that you know that they're independent, and you have to make sure you educate them properly. But because we're talking more about PMA today, this makes the 1099 independent situation a lot easier to handle. Like, you don't have to worry about the labor law because they're not employees, they're members. And as long as you construct your articles of formation properly, you don't need to file this with any state agency. This is completely private, much like a trust. You guys always hear the word trust being thrown around, trust fund babies and trust protect all your assets. Guess what? You don't file a trust with anybody either. And trust hold up in court. So if in your trust you leave your house to somebody, guess who gets the house? The person you left it for in the trust. And the trust isn't filed with anybody. A will is filed with somebody. There's a lot of litigation and red tape that goes on with a will. Not as much with a trust. It's a private document. So a PMA is a private document. I don't need the state's okay of approval or stamp of approval on my PMA. So let's focus on New Jersey for a second here. In the New Jersey Constitution, Article 1, Paragraph 1, this provision of the New Jersey Constitution protects the rights to enjoy and defend life, liberty, and to acquire and possess and protect property, to pursue and obtain safety and happiness. These broad protections encompass the right to freely enter into contracts such as membership agreements with the warehouse PMA without unwarranted government interference. So right there, Article 1, Paragraph 1, it states the power of contract. So if you have a contract with a person in your PMA, which is a member, the state can't really interfere with that. So you guys, you're going to hear that you're not allowed to do that. You can't do this. Well, I'm doing it and it's being done. And I might get letters from the Attorney General like I got right here. Here's a letter from him. And I am responding back with this letter here, letting him know, hey, I really appreciate what you do for the public, but unfortunately, I don't help the public out. I don't work on the public. I don't service the public. I only service my private members. And as long as, like I said, you're not causing any substantial harm or evil, I don't need a state board license. Because I don't just do hair. We do prayer, we do meditation, we do self-development. They're enrolled in my coaching program. So my members get a lot more than just scalp health and hair health and cuts. Like we do education. So when you become a member of our association, there's more than just hair. The activities is really no one's business that happened in my PMA. So in the, I believe it was with the NAACP versus state of Alabama, the state of Alabama, James, can you look that up for me?
What?
NAACP versus state of Alabama, and make sure that was the court case that I'm referring to properly. The state of Alabama tried to get the roster of who was in the NAACP. Yeah, it is Alabama, 1958. So privacy and association. The Supreme Court's ruling in the NAACP versus Alabama established a critical precedent for protecting the privacy of membership associations. The court ruled that the state could not compel the disclosure of membership lists, recognizing the importance of privacy in associations, especially when such a disclosure could lead to reprisals against its members. So the state can't even come in and ask who is a member to question them. That's not allowed. That right there in that court case ruled in favor of private membership associations. You guys, this isn't just like some crazy conspiracy thing. This is contract law. This is deeply rooted in the U.S. Constitution and your state constitution. So if you're going to play ball and you want to do business, learn the language of contracts, learn the language of business, understand what your rights are, understand what they're not, understand what the law says, understand how to have a salon that functions the way you want it to. If you want to truly build a team and make them independent and pour into them so they can become mini little businesses inside of your business, I urge you to learn how to do that. The best way to do it, I feel, is with a PMA. I've helped a lot of salons go from the public into the private. It's a process that I'll help you with. Form your articles of formation with you, help you with the contracts, help you with the membership agreements, all of that. And it's wonderful. Like this is the second letter I got from the state. The first one, I sent them another letter and they went away for a couple of years. This is probably a new attorney general, so I'm going to be, sending him the new letter. Outside of that, there's enough court cases to back up the power of associations and how protected private membership associations are. So I don't want you guys to be afraid of the state or anything. As long as you're, within your rights and you're not causing any substantial harm or evil, you're cool. You can do this. And contracts are protected by the Constitution. So you have to make sure that the contract is worded properly. You have to make sure that you're not, like we talked about yesterday, the whole ABC, all that's covered. And you got to make sure that there really aren't employees. You got to make sure that they're aware of what they need to do when it comes to filing the proper taxes if they want to do that, how they should form their entity. Should they form an LLC? Should they form an S-Corp? Should they form a single owner LLC? Should they form an LLC that then gets treated as an S corp later when they file? How do they handle quarterly taxes? See, when I talk to stylists and when I bring this model into salons, every stylist is like, I don't want to pay taxes. Guess what? You're paying them anyway. They're being taken from your paycheck. Guess what you can't do? Write off your scissors, write off your education, save some of that tax liability. Like, you don't have the ability to do that. Like, there's so much benefit to actually being an independent business, like a single owner LLC. You just have to do the homework and see if it's a good fit for you. Now, if you're making like 40 grand a year, like, there's really no benefit. So this is really meant for people who are hungry, who want to make money, who want to impact their family and really live a life like that they dreamt of. And you can do that in this country. And I'm speaking typically just to America. Guys, there's obviously things you could do in Canada, things you could do in Australia. Like, as long as the people form the constitution that your state or your country goes off of, then you're going to be protected. Just do the homework and research it. James, how are we looking in questions? Anyone dropping questions yet?
Yeah, we have, where is it?
And DM me PMA if you want to learn more information. Pin that comment to the top of the thread. Just put DM me PMA to learn more about the PMAs.
iGlamU has a great question. Do I need to hire a lawyer to set up a private membership association?
No, you're looking at the guy who can do it for you. So lawyers don't really know much about PMAs, unfortunately, even though I think all the New Jersey bars or all the bar for lawyers, like Jersey Bar, Florida Bar, I believe they're PMAs. And I'm going to look that up right now. Let me see this right here. It is the NJ Bar for Lawyers. Let's see. It's not a PMA. All right, so I was lied to about that. There's a lot of misinformation about PMAs. Not a private membership association. All right, cool. So they don't really understand it because there's certain laws that lawyers have to abide by. But you can have a lawyer look over your contract for you. But the thing is, lawyers are statutory compliant. This is non-statutory compliant. I am not going to need a lawyer because this is completely private. So let's break down exactly what statutory and non-statutory compliant mean. Non-statutory versus statutory compliant. Let's see what this comes out with.
So the American Bar Association is
Yeah.
PMA.
Oh, the American Bar Association. All right, so the American Bar Association. James, give us a little more depth on that. What is the American Bar Association?
Hold on, I'm Googling it.
All right. As he's looking that up, so statutory compliant, an entity, organization, or action is statutory compliant when it follows relevant laws and regulations that are established by statutes, laws passed by legislative body. A business obtaining all necessary licenses and permits to operate legally. Non-statutory compliant. An entity, organization, or action is non-statutory compliant when it does not adhere to relevant laws, regulations set forth by statutes. This could mean failing to meet legal regulations, operating outside established legal frameworks, and not following specific regulatory obligations. Now, let's see where a PMA falls into.
So the American Bar Association, the ABA, was founded in 1878 on a commitment to set the legal and ethical foundation for an American nation. Today, it exists as a membership organization and stands committed to its mission of defending liberty and the pursuit of justice.
Who joins the American Bar Association? Are you in ChatGPT?
Serve our members. No, I'm not. I'm on the website.
Ask who joins in chat. So private membership associations often operate under the premise that they are non-statutory entities, meaning they do not operate in the public domain for the general public, but rather exclusively for their private members. PMAs typically assert that because they operate privately, they're not subject to public regulatory statutes. So, however, the essential PMAs carefully consider and ensure they truly operate within the bounds of the laws as non-statutory entities. So it's very important that the wording you use completely separates private from public. You cannot have any vernacular that crosses that line. And that's super important. Like, I have signage outside of my salon. You know we're private. We are not open to the public. You have to sign a membership agreement. every person knows that when you come in our salon, it's a PMA. It's private. And a lot of times they talk about the word salon itself, right? So this word of salon, the word salon, a lot of people think means hair salon, like where you get your hair done. But the term salon, when used in the context of our warehouse PMA, it goes back to the original definition, 18th century France, where the context of a salon is referred to as a gathering of intellectuals, artists, writers, and other influential individuals who would convene to engage in discussions, exchange ideas, and appreciate various forms of art and literature. That is what salons mean to me. So I put that definition on our website, and you guys have to understand, you're going to get pushback when you become a PMA. Like the town's not going to understand what it is. I sent letters to the Attorney General, to the fire department, police department, every single entity in my state, and only the police department came. They just wanted to see who we were. They said hi, and that was it. And so I want you guys to understand, like by doing stuff like this, you're going to get pushback. But as long as you understand the law and you're willing to fight for your freedom, it's really not an issue. Like you're going to get pushback when you want to have an independent contractor in your salon. And are you going to stand up for what you know is true and right, which is enshrined in the Constitution, or are you just going to fold because your accountant said you can't do it? And because the state said you have to pay them payroll and have to make them W-2 workers, and you can't give a commission like that, like a state like California. But what does the ABC rule say? Like, what is that state? Go back to yesterday's live if you want some more information on that. It's posted on YouTube right now. But the absence of control. Guys, if you want independent people, then make them independent. Support them. Give them the tools to be independent. And a lot of people yesterday were talking about, well, how are you going to control their schedule? You don't. That's the point of being independent. You want to make sure you hire people who have hunger, they want to work, they have character, they have core values that align with your salon, and then you give them the opportunity to grow. So if you're filling their books for them and you have a hiring agency that helps staff salons and they also help supply clients to the salon, then you have a perfect structure. You have a couple different entities that are working for you and working for your case if you ever have to go to court. So 1099 is 100% possible. It's a much, much better structure, especially if you're the type of owner like me who wants to see the most out of your staff, to see the most successful team you can actually have and build. That's what's important to me. Like I would love to have a team of people that are doing 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 every single week, controlling their own schedule, using their own color line, using their own booking software. I don't really care. I facilitate an environment for them to be successful at, for them becoming members, service-giving members in my salon. And then I supply a great environment for my other members to help come in here and get services done and learn a little bit about what it is that we do and what we talk about in our establishment. And so you guys, this is something really important. If you do love your freedom and you're in a state that has a lot of overreach like California, maybe you have to look into what a PMA is a little more and really see what the law says, see what the Constitution says, see what your California state Constitution says, see how you could construct an agreement and articles of formation to take you out of the public domain and put you in the private domain. And I have lawyers that told me that I was wrong, but it held up for my buddy who owns a gym when the town tried to shut him down. And I'm not talking about the gym in South Jersey. I'm talking about the gym you didn't hear anything about in North Jersey who went to court and won because the town had no leg to stand on because they were truly private. James, how are we looking in the Q&As?
We're okay. If you're ever nervous to open up a PMA, there's an organization called NAMBLA. And if they have the balls to open up a PMA and operate on a daily basis without government overreach, you shouldn't have any fear whatsoever. NAMBLA stands for National American Boy Love Association. They only exist because PMAs are a thing. They hide behind a private membership association, so the government can't do anything.
Yeah, but I'm not don't ever do that for a PMA. Run a hair salon.
Yeah,
that's the most important. Like run a business privately.
I'm saying if you're scared.
Yeah, like that's pretty crazy. But the bar since 1826. What was that date?
18 something or other.
Yeah. Guys, the Constitution is very powerful. And when you guys ask questions like, oh, it's illegal right away. Do you even know what the law says? Like the lady in the chat yesterday, in the comment of the Warehouse Salons post about how we pay 70% commission, was trying to tell me that it's illegal. I'm willing to bet she probably thinks a lot of things are illegal that aren't. And she takes everything at face value. I want you guys to have childlike curiosity. I want you to investigate what people say is the law and what's not the law. Because I guarantee you a lot of things aren't the law. Like there's a way around almost everything.
People
And
don't understand the Constitution.
so I really want you to talk about, like, go to somebody who really knows the Constitution, even yourself. Go in and read it. What's it say? Like, and look at the court cases that ruled in favor of private membership association. Look at court cases that, like the one for Diamond X versus the state of California or whoever that was. Why did they lose? Like, what was the state's ruling on what considered their independent contractors to be employees? And someone on the chat yesterday said they got taken to court because they misclassified who their employees were as opposed to independent contractors. Well, how could you have circumvented that? Like, what could you have done to protect yourself from that happening again? Use that as a learning experience. Could you have an ironclad contract that truly does enable your staff members, or your independent contractors, I should say, to be independent? Like, how can you word your contract? How do you take the control out of it, the absence of control? Like, is that clear and present in that? Like, is your operating agreement for your salon, does it simply say that you're just simply there to facilitate an environment for independent contractors to do hair out of? Like, there's a lot of power in your operating agreement. Like, when you start talking about like tax code and IRS and all this other BS, like, what does your operating agreement say? Because when you get audited, it's going to go back to that eventually. What is the purpose of your business? And if the purpose of your business is to staff hair salons, and that entity, which you may have an ownership stake in, or your trust that you own might own that LLC, is supplying the staff members for you, one LLC has the environment for people to do hair out of. The other LLC is the one staffing the hairstylist. That's the one who pays the hairstylist. There's no conflict of interest there. They're both owned by separate trusts, two separate LLCs. And as long as the payments are going from that LLC to that individual or that individual LLC, you're completely covered. You have to understand, this is one big game. Like, look at like the companies in America that are so successful and the loopholes they go through. Like, you have this option. Like, you can do this with your single owner LLC. Like, there is a structure. I want you guys to take a look at The Wealth Matrix by Ed Collins on YouTube. He's got a great Instagram channel. But he tells, he's very conservative in terms of, like, he's very by the book. So, like, he's probably the opposite of me. Like, he's very wise about the law and tax structure. But if you abide by everything he says and you structure this properly and you have a couple different LLCs that you could wind up flowing cash from one and cash to another, it's completely operational. Like, you can run your business like that. And single owner LLCs are not acknowledged by the IRS. It's a flow through entity. So you only have to file one tax return at the top, which is that holding company LLC that files as an S Corp. So if you think this is very complex, it's really not. He breaks it down very simple on his YouTube channel. But in terms of PMAs, it's not an LLC. I don't file it with anybody. I make it myself. It's a private document. So I would get a professional. If you don't hire me, hire somebody else who's very well versed in, non-statutory compliant verbiage to construct a private membership association for you and makes you understand what you're getting into. For some people who don't have an appetite for dealing with state agencies and organizations, I tell them just get your state board license and let them come inspect your salon once a year and tell you need cabinets on your doors where towels are, and have this person completely go through your business and tell you what you can and can't do. And that, if you don't have an appetite for risk, then do that. But if you have an appetite for freedom and you have an appetite for risk, saying that you might have to go to court and defend your freedoms and your liberties, then I think you should go private. I think we should 100% exercise your constitutional rights. And I think that's huge for you to take that stand for your freedom and your rights. So if you guys want more information on that, just shoot me a DM and I'll unpack all of that in a conversation for you. And I want you guys to use ChatGPT to help you construct the contract. Like, ask it, hey, is this going to hold up in court if I wanted to make sure my staff members are truly independent? And it would tell you what you should put in, what you shouldn't put in, and then ask it to double check it. That's what I do. I'll start a whole new chat and I'll input the contract. One chat helped me write, and tell it to break it apart and rip it down. I wrote a whole trust for myself and for my family. Like, my family trust was done in ChatGPT, a combination of that, templates, and Google. I spent hours and hours and days on it just to get the perfect trust for my family. Like, my friends who are lawyers looked at it and they were blown away at the amount of attention to detail and depth that I put into this thing. That's all that a lawyer's going to do for you. They're going to use their knowledge. I'm just going to fast track my knowledge with technology. James, is there another
Yeah, but
no comment, no question?
oh, so she just joined. She said, "What YouTuber did you recommend?"
Oh, Ed Collins. Ed Collins, guys, if you're in business for yourself, Ed Collins has a dynamite YouTube channel. I signed up for his program. His program's awesome too. But he's just a beast. So if you want me to drop some YouTube channels you guys should watch, Alex Hormozy, Ed Collins, Cody Sanchez, Gary Vaynerchuk, and then you're done. Or you just join my program and I'm all that wrapped in one. But yeah, those are some great YouTube channels. Guys, the amount of content out there today, there's no excuse for you not to have the knowledge that I have. There really isn't. Like the amount of information that's out on the internet today, you got to sift through it though. There's a lot of people who have, information that's a little bogus. Like I always stress the fact that do your own homework. Don't take anything I say, like really research it and see if it's true or not. And I bet if you keep digging enough, you're going to find out that there are ways to have independent contractors in a state like California. You just have to be very savvy in how you word your contract and how you completely remove any kind of employment structure out of your business, and they can be completely independent. There is a way to do it. Don't ever, ever just take someone's no at face value. I never listen to an accountant when they say you can't do this, or a lawyer say they can't do this. I ask them, how can I make this possible? How can I do this? There has to be a way. The law is a very, very amazing thing. Our Constitution is a very amazing thing. Like the way you can construct contracts and use words to make sure you are in compliant, or you're non-statutory compliant, or you're statutory compliant, or you actually have protection based on your contract. That's all possible. And if you're just thinking you're a hairstylist, guess what? You're not. You're a business owner. Start thinking like a business owner. If you own a suite or you own a salon, like you should understand what contract law is. You should understand how to form a contract, how to read a lease, how to negotiate a lease. Like I can't even tell you how many times I've talked to people that they tried to negotiate a lease to only get burned by the back end CAM charges, that they lowered the monthly cost of the lease and then they added on an extra 20% CAM charge on the back end, and now their rent's the same. So guys, you have to understand, like business is war. Like people will try and screw you over. So you have to get very, very wise when it comes to learning how to negotiate with people, learning the language of business, learning the language of money, learning the language of contracts, learning the language of what the law say you can and can't do, and how do you make things possible. So like this is probably the last day for this week that I'm going to actually do the 1099 thing, because I'm getting over it. The fact that people say it's illegal, you're wrong. The fact that you say PMAs aren't a real thing, they are. They are protected by every state constitution, the right to assemble. They're protected by the right to contract, which is protected federally and protected by the state. Just do your homework, and you're going to see that I'm right. So, James, are there any more questions in the comments here?
No questions, but
Cool.
I actually typed into ChatGPT while you guys were going over that.
Yeah.
How to turn my salon into a PMA, and it gave me a full, in-depth breakdown on how to do so. And then I followed up that question saying that our salon is in Fairfield, New Jersey. Write me a contract that turns my salon into a PMA and abides by the laws of the state of New Jersey and follows the federal constitution and New Jersey state constitution, and created me a full detailed contract that I could send to the state.
The way you word that, you have to make sure, read that second line. Abides by the laws, you said?
Yeah.
No, you can't say abide by the laws. You have to say, write me a contract that's protected by the New Jersey state constitution. So you want to change from abide by, because that means you're statutory compliant. Because the law is going to say, the public law, they might implement that in there. How can I construct this private membership association so I have the protections of the New Jersey state constitution and the federal constitution? How can I construct this private association so I have the protections of the state constitution and the federal constitution? That's what you wanted to say.
See, this is why we do this.
So I'm glad you brought that up. It's how you input things in ChatGPT that you want, and then you want to question it, because a lot of times it might give you false information. So that's really important that you figure out how you want to word it. It's like, yeah, you do hair. Like I have a hair, like I teach hairstylists, right? Barbers. The quality of your questions during your consultation to your client will reveal what you need to do to achieve the result they're looking for with their hair. So if you have a really bad consultation process, you're going to probably have a really bad client process of a bad process on doing hair. So the quality of your consultations and conversations and the questions you ask, it's going to reveal what your client really wants, like what they truly are looking for. If they say they want to be warmer, but in reality, warm to them is cool, you have to make sure you specify that and really get granular with the kind of questions you ask and the pictures you show. Like, get descriptive with them. So if you guys aren't successful because your clients are always complaining and they're coming back for redos, I bet if you fix your consultation process, you're going to fix a lot of the redo problems that you have and a lot of the unhappy clients that are in your salon. It all starts with the consultation and the conversation. Same thing when you bring on a marketer. Like, if you have a person you're bringing on to do the marketing for your salon and you don't onboard them properly to explain what your culture is, what the messaging is, who your ideal client is, and they just start doing marketing for your salon, it's going to suck. It's going to be cookie cutter. Like, you have to really go in depth with the result that you want. Always start with the end in mind. So when I talk to an accountant or I bring on a new person for bookkeeping or for any kind of legal thing that I want to get done for me, I start with the end in mind. Why am I hiring this person? Whether it's marketing, accounting, what's the end in mind I want from my negotiations with my landlord for the lease? Like, start with the end in mind. How do I get there? How do I make that possible? What kind of questions do I have to ask? How do I got to sway the conversation so it gets to the outcome that I want? And as long as that outcome's win-win, you'll always get to that outcome that you want. So it can't be a one-sided result. It has to be a two-sided result where both parties win, especially when it comes to negotiating your lease, because then it actually makes sense for your arguments to get what you want out of the lease. All right, guys. So that's a little bit about the PMA, how it works, how my salon operates. If you want to watch this, the whole thing's on YouTube right now. Go over to the YouTube channel and watch it. It's not for everybody.
Linked in chat.
Just like having independent contractors is not for everybody. If your salon really has a certain kind of culture in it that thrives on people being employees, then don't switch to a 1099 structure. Cover the taxes for them, cover the disability, the payroll tax, keep sending money out of the country to support wars that, are just being recirculating money to different politicians in different countries, getting kicked back here. Like, I'm not going to get into that right now, but if you want to protect your freedoms, you want to protect your rights, and PMA could be good for you. If you want to protect and give your independent stylist the right to write off and take deductions that are legal to single owner LLCs and to companies in America, then maybe independent's good for you. If you want to keep having your stylist not be able to write off certain things, not be able to deduct dependents in their family, not really maximize the amount of deductions and other, benefits of being a company, then keep them independent. And I'm not saying that as a dig. I'm saying that there's a lot that goes into that. Like, you have to really train your staff and teach them what the difference is between being independent is and what being an employee is. So you want to make sure that you have that conversation with your staff. You want to make sure that they truly understand what they're responsible for by being independent. You have to be clear and transparent with that. And if that is something they want to do, and you show them on a piece of paper how much they made this year and how much they would make this year as an independent contractor, how much they can write off this year and how much they can deduct as an independent contractor, and where they're better off at the end of it. And if they're better off as an independent contractor, then they become independent. If they're not, then keep them as an employee until the time comes where they're making enough money that they become an independent contractor. And so I want you guys to really dig in, do your homework, sit with an accountant, sit with somebody who understands what you're trying to do. I have an accountant on my team. He'll sit with you and work it out with you. He'll tell you what you can and can't do. So if you want to get access to him, let me know. I'll introduce the two of you, and you guys have a conversation. If he could be of service, he will be. If he can't, then he won't be. So thanks for watching, guys. That's the end of today's live. If you want to watch the whole thing, like I said, go to the YouTube channel. I think James dropped it over in the comments.
Put it in the chat.
If you want help growing your salon and learning how to navigate these conversations with your team, DM me the word grow. We'll get a conversation going. Other than that, have an amazing, blessed day. Thanks for watching. You guys are amazing. Goodbye.